Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure doing this with you on this beautiful Thursday morning. The what's the date? The 13th of August 2026. I hope all of you guys are doing well. I hope you're having a beautiful morning. It's quite bright and sunny out here in Kampala. We are here for yet another conversation on all matters football. To be honest, or to be fair with you guys, I want to know, where do you want the conversation to lead this morning? Maybe we'll get to talk about a bit of mostly transfers because that's what is making the rounds as things stand. But more importantly, we'll get to have a discussion on perhaps the UEFA Super Cup that transpired yesterday, and apparently PSG are set to go all in. Remember, one of their objectives is to try and match that record by Real Madrid of winning 3 consecutive UEFA Champions League titles. Is it possible? Yes. I mean, if it's been done before, why can it not be done again? And this time around by somebody else. So there's all that to think about. Then we will. Today being a Thursday, it's possibly anyway. We shall do that in the coming days. Looking forward to the FA Community Shield, among other things. But some friendly games were played yesterday, so we'll get to talk about the results. Maybe not in depth in regards to what transpired, particularly for that game between Man United and Leeds. I thought both teams went toe to toe, albeit I was catching, snippets of the game. Now I had it on screen, but the very start of the game, my feed was sort of discouraging. It was on and off, kind of, a lot of buffering, and it wasn't giving me the best results. Anyways, then also we'll get to talk about what else. Predominantly, that's about it. Then today we are having another video being premiered, and the question we do pose in that video is, can Arsenal defend their Premier League title? That's a question we do pose. So, but in the last couple of days, like I promised you yesterday evening, that video did feature about Liverpool, Manchester City. We'll get to discuss that in detail. So for those of you that have spared the time, please go ahead and watch. For those of you that have already watched it, thank you so much. I do encourage the rest of you to also go and do the same. Do not miss out on any of those episodes because very, very, interesting stuff. Very in-depth analysis I will bring to you in those very discussions, looking at what is possible, what is not possible, what the challenge looks like, what reservations do we have about some of those things, etc. So yeah, look at it in that regard, or in that space or realm. So where do we start the conversation from? I spent the entire morning. De La Cruz says hi. Kyle De La Cruz says hi. Then Joshua Calabio says, you guys, hello to you too. Why are you joining us from on this beautiful Thursday morning? So for those of you that are just joining us, welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is my name, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. It's the Football Tribe UG channel. It's a sports channel. It's a football channel. Do me 2 favors. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if it is your first time here. Anyways, let me know, what's your name? Do you live in Africa? Yes, I come from Kampala, Uganda, small landlocked country in the eastern part of the continent, neighboring Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan, DRC Congo, and Rwanda. Those are our immediate neighbors. So thanks for asking. But like I said, my name is Robert, but you can call me Tribe. Some people call me Football Tribe, others just Tribe, anything that you feel comfortable with. So a lot is happening. A lot is happening in terms of the transfer window. But what did we learn from yesterday's game? First and foremost, we'll begin with Paris Saint-Germain beating up against Aston Villa by 2 goals to 1. Those 2 goals scored by Kivicha Kvaratskhelia and Desli Doué on the side of Paris Saint-Germain, while the goal that turned out to be a mere consolation for team that's Aston Villa was scored by Maggio. I hope that's the pronunciation, with Captain John McGinn providing the assist. And where do you live? Oh, I've already responded to that. In the capital, Kampala, Uganda. Maybe let me put it down for you in the comment section. It will be easy for you. Sometimes when I say it, the pace at which I say it tends to confuse some people. But that's where I'm from. Okay. Leomar Martinez says, you're cool. Thank you so much. Kindly like the broadcast, guys, but also subscribe to the channel. So in what we learned from yesterday's game was PSG still as strong as advertised. They, of course, fielded arguably the best starting 11 they could. Magnus Akleocho starting in that one, Kivicha Kvaratskhelia and Desli Doué in their front three, Zaire Emre, as had been the case through the start of last season with Vitinha and Joao Neves. Fabian Ruiz came in. Ousmane Dembele was among those that came on. Then Lucas Belaldo, Seni Mayuru, Lucas Hernandez, and those are some of the players that managed to come on. You're the best streamer. Thank you so much, Lioma. So, and then on the side of Aston Villa, who by the way I thought missed loads of chances, they also tried to field the best team that they could. That included the Marco Bizzotti in goal, Ian Matson, Pau Torres, Victor Lindelof, Matty Cash. Of course, Ezri Konsa was still on holiday. Tyrone Mings came in. Joao Gomez, who they signed from Wolverhampton Wanderers for about £38 million this summer, did start alongside Boubacar Kamara in that midfield. And then you had Emi Buendia, Hummings, John McGinn, and Moja. I did not think that was arguably the strongest starting 11 that Aston Villa could have fielded, but at the time, that's what they had. So we saw the coming on of Tyrone Mings, Ross Barkley, Bogart, Tammy Abraham, and then the one thing you guys ought to remember is that Ivan Guesan, who they signed last summer, was it from Stade Rennes, has been sent out, back on loan to Crystal Palace. He's going back to Crystal Palace on another season-long loan, having spent the second part of the season there. After parting ways with Aston Villa, because in a way they felt maybe I don't think they were patient enough with him. I mean, he only made 13 appearances in as far as the Premier League was concerned, and then now even at Crystal Palace itself, he's not been miraculous. Only 1 goal scored in 8 Premier League games. I think he also scored a goal during the UEFA Conference League journey. But yeah, that's the player we are talking about in Ivan Guesand. So then also, oh, Jesus Christ, guys. Anyway, but I'll just go based on assumption that my audios are loud and clear. Otherwise, I almost thought for a second that maybe, just maybe, you guys are not getting me quite really, really well. Okay, so the other big story that is making the rounds, that is involving Ferran Torres, who is set to join Paris Saint-Germain in a deal whose initial cost is yet to be revealed. But according to Fabrizio Romano, that deal is edging closer and closer. Final talks are set to take place between the two parties to try and wrap up a deal. That's according to Fabrizio Romano, who says Paris Saint-Germain are set to close Ferran Torres deal with Barcelona, with Barca, as final round of talks happens soon. Here we go, coming next. So, I mean, that would be a huge positive. I find him a better replacement of Goncalo Ramos, who I think only scored 6 league goals in 30 appearances last season. When I reflect on the idea that they managed to convince AC Milan to pay north of 70 million euros for his signature, sometimes it tells you how some teams are really, really good at negotiating some of these deals. Leo Martinez says, I subscribe to You're the Best. Thank you so much, Martinez. Thank you so much. Much appreciated for the support. May God reward you abundantly if you are a believer. Okay, so, when it comes to transfers, one of the challenging things for we who look at the game is perhaps having the right measure of the value of a player. Now, three things put value on a player. There's what is believed to be market value, overall market value. That's something that some people sit down or using supercomputers or AI, whichever, look at certain particular sets of data, player performance, and say this player should be worth this. And then you have the selling club who say the player is worth that. Release the buying club also says he's worth this to us. So eventually, sometimes the selling club gets what they want. In other words, they get to sell the player at a price that they feel they want. And sometimes the buying club also gets to buy the player at the price they think they are comfortable with, or that is the right value. Sometimes people get scammed. It happens. The same way you would go to negotiate for a car and you pay $5,000 for a car that should be costing you $3,000 or $3,500. It also happens in the player market. Why? Because the negotiators on the other side did a great job, and it's not personal, it's just business, Vish says, Jesus loves you. Thank you. So, so basically, that is what happens. Now, in this current transfer window, you've had lots of deals happen, and people have been left with their eyebrows raised. Why? Because I feel there's been an exaggeration of price tags or prices for players. When you look at what Nottingham Forest commanded for Elliot Anderson to go to Man City, what Aston Villa have bagged for Morgan Rogers, etc., all that, the best thing ever happened with me going to school. Okay, that's from Martinez. So basically that happens. Somebody called, is it Ashuman says hello from India. Hello to you too, India. India, the one thing I love about India, and I'll never stop saying about this, maybe not India as a country, but Indians as a group of people that have had the opportunity to interact with online here. They've been one of the kindest people to me, extending love and support, even when majority of them are not football fans. Many of them are cricket fans, but they've extended grace and kindness. I've had some that have been unkind, but we will not focus on the negatives. Let's always focus on the positives. So thank you so much, Team India, wherever you are. So thank you. Okay. Are you? Yes, you're from where? Kampala, Uganda. Let me pin it let me pin that comment there. So you guys who keep asking can know. But that's the place, Kampala, Uganda, where I'm from. Anyways, so let's. I'm still telling you that Paris Saint-Germain, their objective is one, to win the. Yesterday, having won the UEFA Super Cup, beating Aston Villa by 2-1 in a game that PSG obviously dominated, but Aston Villa weren't without their chances. I thought they created some really, really good chances, but they never made them count. But also, like I said, they did not have the best team set up, I thought. But those 4 shots on target compared to PSG's 5 and 7 off target for Aston Villa compared to PSG's 3 tells you how small the game, the gap was in terms of the final third business, even though possession, PSG tipped it or edged it to 56% compared to 44% of Aston Villa. Had about Ugandan cricket team, it appeared in the recent 2024 Cricket World Cup. Yeah. The cricket cranes did feature, but I'll be honest, I'm not a huge cricket fan. I'm not huge on cricket. I only follow it in snippets, so I may not be able to speak to its particulars, but I know they have players like I think uh, Mosoke. He's called Mosoke something. I'm forgetting the other name, but it's one of those teams that have given Uganda a bit of pride in the recent past. So thank you. You're cool like me. Oh, you're also a cool person. Thank you so much, Martinez. Wish you the best of luck. And it's good to know that you're a cool person. So now, back to PSG as a team. First and foremost, the beauty about PSG in their pursuit for glory, in their pursuit to win the Champions League, back to back, is the one thing they've managed to do that you really, really find interesting is they've managed to keep the core of their squad. Now, oftentimes, when a team wins it all, it is only almost natural that our players may want to seek greener pastures, or not necessarily greener pastures, may want to go elsewhere to try and see and have a new challenge, a fresh challenge. So remember, first of all, PSG is not the biggest of clubs in world football. It is one of the big ones, but not the biggest. Ahead of them, you have clubs like Bayern Munich, clubs like AC Milan, like Inter Milan, Barcelona, Real Madrid. So you would anticipate or assume that there will be an attraction for their players to any of those clubs. And now that they've won the UEFA Champions League back to back, and winning the French League One is almost like a routine. They've won the Coupe de France, etc., and the Trophy de Champs. So you sometimes thought to yourself, maybe this was the window where some of their assets were going to be priced away. We're talking about Akraf Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, Willian Pacho. We're talking about Vitinha, Joao Neves, Fabian Ruiz. We're talking about Ousmane Dembele, Desile Doué, Kivicha Kvaratskhelia, Bradley Bakola. That's the spine of the team, We know that last summer they lost the goalkeeper in Gianluigi Donnarumma, the beautiful man. Thanks. And then you said bye-bye to you. Thank you for chipping in. Thank you for your invaluable time. So they have managed to keep the core of that. Contrary to last summer when they lost Gianluigi Donnarumma to Manchester City, this time around they do not appear like they are bound to lose any of their stars, because even for Bradley Bakola, oftentimes in the eyes of PSG, he's a substitute to Desile Doué. Therefore, he's a key part of the squad, but not an guaranteed start always, the way you would have a Kivicha Kvaratskhelia. So you look at that, and the reason as why we talk about Bradley Bakola is because there's interest in him from Liverpool. Yesterday, somebody was asking me, is he going to go to Liverpool? Well, that's the objective. But sometimes we do not always get our wishes. I've lived long enough to know that life doesn't always give you what you want. So we can only wait in anticipation. What is almost guaranteed, even though not 100% guaranteed, is that Bradley Bakola could be playing his football next season elsewhere, away from PSG or from Parc des Princes. The question is it going to be at Anfield? Will it be at the Emirates, or somebody else will come up and offer to sign him? One of the challenging bits as to why this deal has delayed is because of the money involved. Remember, at the start of the conversation, I was telling you about price tags of players and have clubs value and etc. Now, there's a mismatch in the valuation of the player. PSG have been reported to have used the benchmarks of Morgan Rogers to say our player is worth more than that. Therefore, they are being reported to want to demand anywhere between 130 to 145 million pounds for any club that may want to sign Bradley Bakola. Is he innately worth that? Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot. But it is simply the case of saying, if you're going to give a 3-year-old 2 eggs for breakfast, then maybe you deserve to give a 15-year-old 5 eggs for breakfast. In other words, how PSG are looking at it is that if you're buying players that are not better than my player for a premium price, then definitely you will pay over and above what you paid, what others have paid for those players to get mine. It's simply that. It's simply setting precedent. You know, if you go in a car dealership and let's say a Toyota Camry 2014 is going for 1,500 US dollars, you do not expect to get a 2016 Toyota Camry at $1,000 because the other one is improved technology, improved aesthetics. Therefore, it will go for maybe $2,000. I'm simply saying, of course, depending on the mechanical condition, but that's the example I would want to use. So they've let go of some players like Goncalo Ramos, like Lee Kang-in. You suspect that maybe Ibrahim Mbaye could be among those that exit before the end of the transfer window, but then they are also doing well in terms of repressing. Magnus Aklaucho joined them from AC Monaco. He was a feature in that one. And now they are pursuing a deal to sign Ferran Torres from Barcelona. Now, I do not know whether the player initially had thought that was going to leave Barcelona, but there had been multiple reports linking him with a potential move away from Barcelona, who wanted to avoid, apparently, paying a £10 million sort of fee in add-ons to Manchester City if he does see out his first contract. So ever since joining them, about close on to 4 years ago, thereabout. So that deal is being negotiated and is believed to be at the final stages. Let's wait and see what will the case be. Then also, Christian Romero is set to travel to Madrid for Atletico de Madrid move after a €40 million package deal was agreed between Tottenham Hotspur and Atletico de Madrid. Now, Tottenham will get a 15% on any future sale. Now, usually, sell-on clauses operate in such a manner that that percentage sell-on clause is on the profit. Now, unless, anyway, God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? Because I do not suspect that you're going to sign a 28-year-old defender for €40 million and then 2 seasons down the road you're selling him for 60 for you to make a 20 or maybe 50 even, for you to make a 20 million euro profit. I do not suspect. But anyways, you do not leave anything to chance. You give yourself the opportunity that should, in the event that that happens, you have a sell-on clause. So Cristiano Romero is bound to join Atletico de Madrid, where he will get reunited with his countryman in Diego Simeone, and let's wait for that deal to happen. Okay, briefly, Michael Carrick was speaking about Marcus Rashford. This is as quoted by Stephen Railstone, who says, Michael Carrick said Rashford is our player and he's come back great. I have known him a long time and he gives us something a little bit different. We are looking forward to the start of the season. Now, for those of you that are regulars on this channel, I have made my views and thoughts are quite clear on Marcus Rashford, and maybe I'll once again pick the mind of Mitchell Wainscots. Good morning to you, sir. How are you doing? Mitchell Wainscots here is a writer. He specializes in branding work and then writing. If you want an autobiography, you want a memoir, and those kinds of things, you can reach out to him. Anyways, maybe I'll pick his mind once again. I know he's expressed his opinion before, but sometimes when new sets of facts or new information comes to light, we tend to maybe change our opinion or our views over a player or a particular topic. I don't know if that is the story for him, but Marcus Rashford is back training with Man United. And I saw a picture of him, in a bit of a contest for what appeared to be, a floated in ball with Harry Maguire. And he had a smile on his face as if to say, I'm back home. It does feel like it's the story of the prodigal son returning home. But whichever way you look at it, I think it's, for me, I think with the proper handling of Michael Carrick, I think he will be able to give Manchester United something different, something good. It may not be to the heights of what we saw of him in the 2022-2023 season. It may not be to those heights, but he's capable of giving you something. Maybe, I mean, a 15 goals season wouldn't be that bad for a player who literally, a lot of people have had the idea or have been of the view that he'd be pushed out of the club at whatever the cost. So, Mitchell Wainscourt, your views on Marcus Rashford. How do you look at it in the perspective? Look at it in two perspectives. Okay, maybe only one. Let me limit you in this particular case on the perspective of him staying at the club. If by the end of 1st September, when the transfer window is expected to officially be wrapped up, Marcus Rashford is still a Man United player. What are your expectations of him? How would you want Michael Carrick to use him? So that is something that I want to pick your mind on. So allow me to digress back because I was trying to look for this, but I failed to, land on it at the time. But remember when I was talking about PSG wanting to dominate Europe, Luis Enrique, on trying to win the 3rd UEFA Champions League in a row, he said, yes, that's our mentality. We want to be ambitious. It's going to be very difficult. We don't want to be selfish, but it's our ambition. Now, it is okay to have all these ambitions. It's really, really okay. But one of the things I oftentimes find challenging for managers, and it's one of those things that I oftentimes wonder about. How do you motivate yourself or even your players when they have achieved it all and to go again? It's one of those things that Pep Guardiola managed to do really, really well. Sir Alex Ferguson managed to do really, really well. When you look at teams that win league titles back to back, look at now, regardless of what team you look at, you almost want to ask yourself, what motivates them to go again? Because it's not simple. Once you have achieved the ultimate success, I'll give you an example. If you're earning $200 and your overall objective is to earn $1,000. Once you get to $1,000, you may feel like you've arrived. That's where you've always wanted to be. Now, however, there's a principle of success that success creates hunger for more success. I understand that perspective as well, that the more you achieve, the higher you want to climb the achievement ladder. That when you're at step A, you want to get to step B. But when you get to step B, you realize, oh, that's not it all. I thought I would be satisfied being at step B, but maybe I need to go to C, and maybe to D, maybe to E, something like that. You keep climbing your ladder. That's the nature of success. But sometimes when it comes to football and maybe other sporting disciplines, when you win back to back, it's not easy to motivate the same group of players to have the same hunger as before they did win. Because that's the difference factor. That the hunger you have before winning is oftentimes hard to replicate as though you've not won before. It's similar to consuming a product. If you're really, really hungry on a given day and somebody offers you a chapati, trust me, the speed at which you consume the first chapati may not be the same speed at which you consume the second and the third. So look at it in that perspective. So it's always one of those things that I wonder to myself, how do these players get motivated? Okay, let's return to the Rashford story before we move on. But for those of you that have just joined the channel, Robert Kesakos is my name. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. Much appreciated. Okay, if Rashford puts aside his ego, ready to press and ready to polish his behavior, he can be a good addition to the squad as long as he doesn't destroy the dressing room. Now, here's what I've said. I know there are characters that are capable of ruining it for a dressing room. But when you walk into a dressing room, you know, this thing of saying associate yourself with successful people or with people that are positive minded, that even when you're so negative, just you living around them may cause a behavior shift in you. In other words, by the back end of last season, I think Manchester United's dressing room had been at the best it had ever been since the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson, in terms of having that feel good factor. You know, the thing I like about the feel good factor is that it wins you games. There are games you go into, and you may not be at your best, but because you're in that positive mode, you keep believing, you keep hoping that you can still, come up with something and eventually win a game where you did not look so good. So I do not want to believe, even though it is a possibility, that Marcus Rashford solely is going to walk into that dressing room and he disrupts it. Why? Because that dressing room has changed. Remember, the last time he was part of that dressing room was around December 2024, January 2025. He then goes on loan to Aston Villa, after which he then goes to Barcelona. So in other words, in the last 1 year and a half, he's been out of that. Guess what? It's changed. You have new faces in Benjamin Sesko, in Matthias Cunha, in Brani Beumo, in who else? In a Diego Leone. I don't know if he's now a member of the first team squad, but you have a Yuri Tillemans, you have an Andre Santos. Who else? I feel like there's a name I'm skipping. Anyways, in other words, the level of influence and interaction that he may have on this group of players may not be as what it used to be 1.5 years ago. You have a Seni Lomans in there, and I do not think he had built himself the rapport with the likes of Matthias Delit, Nusa Mazorowi, Lenny Yoro, Aiden Heaven, to sort of a beginning causing disruptions in the dressing room. That if he dares to bring negative energy, and I'm not saying he has negative energy, but should he dare to be that, I think the others could easily isolate him out to say, no. We're not all about that nonsense again. We hear what is happening. We believe in Michael Adrian Carrick and everything he says. We'll do things his way and we're going to achieve things. So that's how I look at it. So, and then also, in addition, is for me, I feel that Manchester United really, really need somebody on that left wing. So, and yeah, Marcus Rashford is one of the good ones. So I wish him the best of luck. Anyways, that's all there for the world to take in when it comes to that. Okay. What should we go on to next? Now, Man United, by the way, like I said, yesterday played in a 1-1 draw against Leeds United. Eventually, they pipped it on penalties that preceded the 1-1 draw, but I felt it was a good game. I remember there's a moment when Yuri Tillemans passes the ball to Bruno Fernandes and he takes the shot fast touch. It goes, I think, slightly over the bar or something. I mean, I've only watched flashes of those two in action. But here's what I'm going to say. There have been a few indications that it could turn out to be a good partnership. Now, remember, Bruno Fernandes as a supportive 10, a creative 10, he oftentimes never overthinks his ideas. He keeps things simple. If he's going to pass the ball, he will pass the ball. If he's going to shoot, he's shooting the ball. He does not try to dilly-dally a lot with the ball. He's not trying to attempt to dribble past 1, 2, 3 players. No. He tries to keep it simple. And then Yuri Tillemans has that good eye for a killer pass, for a good pass. And I wouldn't be too surprised if in the coming campaign, if that partnership is able to click, we get to see Bruno Fernandes scoring a lot more goals, you know? Anyways, for us, it is threatening to rain on the outside. But I only hope that the rains be good. And, you know, there are good rains and bad rains, you know. Bad rains are those that come with hailstorms, cause lots of flooding and disruptions, and they're windy, you know. Anyways, I hope it doesn't come to that. So I see a partnership brewing there. And if they can give themselves the accommodation of one another to try this thing out, I do not know what Man United's overall composition was going to be in terms of midfield. You know, I was part of a discussion and somebody tried to suggest this. Because they were so torn between who to choose between Kobe Mainu, Andre Santos, and Yuri Tillemans, and Bruno Fernandes on who should start as the midfield trio in that Manchester United 3, they ended up saying that Bruno Fernandes should be played out of the left wing. In other words, in a 4-3-3 kind of system. So you would have Andre Santos, Kobe Mainu, and Yuri Tillemans in that midfield trio. And then Bruno Fernandes coming off the left, then Brian Mbeumo coming off the right, and then you have either a Matthias Cunha or Benjamin Sesko playing centrally. Now, it sounds okay. You know, it's something that you could pull off. But I feel that if you use Bruno Fernandes off the left wing, it could come with certain limitations, or you could limit him in his creative third as a free man who roams around the entire midfield and pops up in the right spaces around the D. So I do not know if that's Michael Carrick's thinking, but I feel that if you pushed him to the left wing, you may not be able to then milk the best out of him. Mitchell says, I see that partnership between Yuri and Bruno. They see each other while on the pitch. That's good. Good observation. Looks like we are trying to see the same thing. What the Malawi ladies did, has it ever happened at a team qualifying for the first time for action, then go to the final and qualify for the Ladies World Cup? Not that I know of. I think you're speaking to the effect of WAFCON, one of those competitions. Guys, by the way, I love football. And I remember the year was about either 2006 or 2008. No, it wasn't 2006. Most probably 2008. Was it? No. Anyway, between 2006 and 2008, there's a big women's competition that happened. I remember us having a black and white screen and watching women football, and I enjoyed it. But when it's come to club and country football for the ladies' game, I don't know. It's not something that has really, really caught my eye. If I find the game on, I'm going to sit and watch it. I remember watching the Champions League final between Barcelona and Arsenal last year, but one, when Arsenal went on to win it, I think by goal to nil, or something like that. But I'm not so akin to it. So you'll indulge me if I'm not too familiar with the ins and outs of the ladies' game. But thank you so much, Leonetao, for that submission. You never talked once about the ladies' AFCON. Is it because Kenya did not qualify? No. First and foremost, I'm not Kenyan, so I wouldn't give a rat's ass about whether Kenya qualified or not. To be honest, here's what happened. Mentally for me, after the World Cup, which took a bit of a toll on me, because for those of you that are regulars on this channel, you'll know that we are doing lives literally all through and through. Games kicking off late, very early in the morning, etc. We try to give you the best updates of the World Cup that you would have on a daily basis. So in the long run, it meant very short hours of sleep. It meant lots of disruptions for me. And I had a bit of football fatigue. That's why I've not gone all in with preseason. I've watched most of the games passively. I've watched most of the games passively. I think there was a game between Morocco and Cameroon. I stand to be corrected, something like that. But was it Morocco and Cameroon yesterday? Or I remember seeing it on one of my football feeds, but I never paid again great attention to it. Uh, Yes, Morocco and Cameroon, but Cameroon have since gone through on penalties. I've led to believe, and I can see here Malawi beat up against Algeria by 3 goals to 1. So it's not. It has nothing to do with the qualification. It has everything to do with me just not giving it the attention perhaps it deserves. And accept my apologies for having fallen short on your expectations on that front. But thank you. Simply extend me a bit of grace. So I've been trying to get myself into that headspace. And even for, the season is at the door, but I feel like I'm ill prepared to start the season in a way. It's just something I feel. And yet I want to ready myself to go again for an entire season. But yeah, Mitchell gives us says ladies AFCON, if a team reaches semi-finals, they automatically qualify for the World Cup. Okay, thank you so much, Mitchell, for that. Okay, I understand your reason. You need to rest from football. Trust me, I've tried, but in this line of work, because this is work for me, you cannot entirely escape it. You cannot entirely escape it. You must stay within a certain know of certain things, so that because you cannot entirely switch off and say, guys, I'm taking a break, or a 1 week break or a 2 weeks break off of this. See you at the next turn. So I try as much as I can to stay in the loop. That's why oftentimes I rely on you guys to get updated with some of the things that are transpiring. So Linotau, if you're giving attention to the WAFCON, which I know that is really, really happening, feel free to give us the updates as and of when they do come through. But yeah, yesterday those games were played, and I can see that Morocco women and Algeria, I think, is the upcoming fixture on the 15th of August at 10 p.m. I think, and then Cameroon versus Malawi. Is that the third? I think that's the third place playoff and the final. So let's wait and see. Nigerian women used to be good. The Nigerian women's team used to be good. So yeah. Okay. Let's move on. So, okay, before we move away from Manchester United, I thought it was a good game between them and Leeds United. If a team needed really, really a good test on how far they are prepared for the Premier League, I think Leeds United gave Manchester United a good test. Both sides tried to go for it, but eventually it was a draw in normal time. Then on the other side, Arsenal played their final game of preseason, sharing the spoils with Como in a 1-1 draw. It's one of those games where you had a few impressive performances, particularly on the Arsenal part. There's a youngster, a 16-year-old English centre-back called Mali Solomon. He looked good. He was a standout performer. Played, I think, the most minutes of any other player on the pitch. Then Mazlou Skeri squad and seemed to signal to the fans that I'm here to stay. Disregard all the reports that have been making the rounds in recent weeks, suggesting that I have been offered to either Man United or Chelsea. So I'm here to stay and I love the club. Now, Arsenal are not trying to get him out. He's not trying to get out. But, life, a lot can change in 24 hours. We could wake up tomorrow and suddenly the story has changed. But until the window closes, you don't leave anything to chance. So in terms of market movement, okay. Okay, before we get to market movement, Bruno Guimaraes made his Arsenal debut. He did okay. Which other player? I thought Ethan Nwaneri in that midfield tried to do his best. Mazlou Skeri himself, he was better than in the last outing against Borussia Dortmund. So yeah, there's a few positives to take away from. Francesc Sola Fabregas was saying, if you do not try out young players, then you will derail their process. process. They will simply get lost in the process. And and he's right. One of the reasons why we oftentimes ask ourselves why these big young prospects never live to the expectations is that how often do you see them taken a bet on? In other words, they be given a sufficient chance. And what passes for a sufficient chance is that you will come and play maybe 8 games and 5 of those you've not been good. But somebody must be willing to give you a chance. Now, to give you an extra chance to keep trying until you get better. Now, the challenge is at these big teams, you do not get that in plenty. Why? Because there's a lot on the line. So anyways, Fabregas was saying if there are any youngsters that Arsenal are willing to give them, that's from Hell End, they are open to taking them. They are open to taking them. And I know Fabregas is one of those that appreciates young players and is willing to give them chances. Having himself come through out of La Masia as a youngster, and he came in at Arsenal and was able to hack it. So Mikel Arteta was speaking about Mazuris Kelly, and he said he's a very emotional player. Remember when he did all the gestures on the pitch? I'm not going to talk about any speculation. If there is any speculation about our players, it is a good sign. It means we attract attention and they are doing a good job. That's what he had to say. In terms of the market, he said there is more that we want to do. Every time we have an opportunity to improve the squad and bring more quality and depth to the squad, we need to do that. We are actively trying to do so. We are going to try. In other words, that's to say that Arsenal are not done with the transfer market, even though they seem to have gone a bit quiet. Good morning, Boss Royal. Speaking of the market, Chelsea have informed whoever cares to listen that they have until Friday PM to decide whether they are going to buy Enzo Fernandez, or otherwise they'll be closing the door to the Argentine in this transfer window. Now, Chelsea are willing to listen to offers, but they are not desperate to sell. CR7 fan page God says hi to you too. So here's the thing. It's Chelsea know that there's interest in their player, particularly from Real Madrid, particularly from Man City, but it is Manchester City that have raised their hand the highest in expressing interest. They've had talks with Chelsea over him. Now, what Chelsea is trying to do is they want to have assurances. Is the player leaving? If the player is to leave, let him leave and let's plan for the future without him. Let's see whether his departure causes us to go and explore the market and find a replacement. May not be pound for pound, because losing Andre Santos and Enzo Fernandez in the same transfer window could necessitate that Chelsea go back in the transfer window. So they want to know what clarity looks like in that potential deal. Good morning, CR7. You say good analysis. Thank you so much. So Chelsea have fixed Friday, 5 p.m. UK time as a deadline for Enzo Fernandez exit. Manchester City are in talks with his camp, or have been in talks with his camp for days. You say keep it up. Thank you so much, a CR7 fan. So they've been in talks with the players' camp, and Chelsea have communicated in bold letters with absolute clarity that whoever wants to sign Enzo Fernandez must and should be willing to cough 120 million pounds. That's not cheap. That's not small. But remember, Chelsea just committed themselves to making a deal worth 117 million pounds for Morgan Rogers. Therefore, they are looking to recoup some money back in their coffers. And one of their prized assets in that realm is Enzo Fernandez. Excuse the example if you find it wanting. But in the African society, you have parents that look at their daughters as a cash cow. And they know that if it is Mitchell coming to court for my daughter, I'm going to demand for 20 cows. I'll demand for 10 million shillings in cash. I'll demand for things A, B, C, D. In other words, some people look at their daughters as the speedboat to propel them out of poverty or to elevate their wealth from one level to another. Now, look at Chelsea in those terms. You know, they have Enzo Fernandez. They know he's a good player. They know he's appreciated. So they're simply communicating to the market that, look, if this deal is going to happen, it has to happen within this time. It is similar to what Bournemouth said about Anton Semenyo in the January transfer window. His release clause was only valid until the 15th of Jan because they wanted to confirm his exit early so that they can go back in the transfer window and sign a replacement. So basically, Chelsea are in a way telling us that. So Chelsea will not sell, or otherwise they will not sell. They will have to wait. They would rather wait until maybe the January transfer window. The question is, can Man City wait? Because Man City on the verge of losing Rodri to Barcelona and possibly Tijan Reinders to Nottingham Forest. Those deals are being negotiated. They have not yet gone through. So even Man City perhaps are waiting to have that clarity to say, okay, this deal is happening between us and Barcelona, and that one is happening between us and Nottingham Forest, and this is how much we are going to raise out of those two deals. Therefore, we can commit the resources to getting Enzo Fernandez. Because you need to sell. This is a bit unfortunate. It would never occur to me that you needed to sell two players with the quality of Rodri, in addition to Tijan Reinders, to raise money that can buy Enzo Fernandez. And yet, that feels like that's going to be the case, you know, at least for now. Okay, if Chelsea lose Enzo next season, don't be surprised if they do not qualify for European football. Now, as good as advertised, you know, I think I've said this about Chelsea's owners. As much as they want to win the pieces of silverware, they still care about the bottom line, the balance sheet. They want to make the money. And remember, they've invested quite a lot over the last 4 years, coming on to 5 years, you know. So I think Man City will fit him. There's a love affair between Enzo Fernandez, and I mean that literally, and Enzo Maresca. That sort of good understanding between player and manager and appreciation. And perhaps in his analysis, he's thinking, if I create a midfield of Elliot Anderson, Enzo Fernandez, Ryan Chaki, or Elliot Anderson, Enzo Fernandez, Phil Foden, or, you know, Mateo Kovacic, Enzo Fernandez, whichever way you want to look at it, I'll have a good, you know, central midfield. The thing about Rodri, regardless of how good he is, if he does not renew terms at Manchester City, I think they would rather make something out of him this summer as opposed to waiting till next summer to lose him for free. Meanwhile, it started raining here in Kampala, Uganda, but that won't phase us. Anyways, so you ought to look at it in those terms. That's why Chelsea are setting the ultimatum, and let's wait and see if Manchester City will act on it. Anyways, Galatasaray have offered 45 million euros to try and sign 25-year-old Gabriel Martinelli from Arsenal, even though Arsenal are not reluctant to sell, but they do not believe that they want more than that. They want at least 50 million pounds for the player before they can sanction a move. But among the players they apparently offered is Ethan Nwaneri. And for Galatasaray, their priority target is Gabriel Martinelli. So let's go through the transfer gossip and speculation as compiled by BBC Sport. So then Arsenal are open to selling Spanish midfielder Martin Zubimendi for at least 77 million pounds, with Chelsea a strong contender to sign the 27-year-old, according to Team Talk. Now, would it be too remote to think that if Chelsea lost Enzo Fernandez, they would target a Zubimendi? Not too remote to think about. Why? Xabi Alonso appreciates the player, having worked with him or watched him closely during his time at Real Sociedad B. He was at Real Sociedad B in 2019 to 2022 before making the switch to Bayer Leverkusen. So, but the question is, would Arsenal be in the right senses to sanction that sort of move? I am not for it. I wouldn't second it. Then Aston Villa have held talks with West Ham to sign right back Aaron Wan-Bissaka at 28 with the DRC defender valued at about £25 million. That's according to The Athletic. While Ipswich are set to complete the signing of 20-year-old Ivory Coast-born right back and midfielder Adol Outara from Strasbourg. That's according to Sky Sports. Aston Villa have also offered Bayern Munich a loan with an option to buy their Portuguese midfielder, João Paulinho, 31, but a permanent transfer is the preferred option for the German club, according to Florian Plettenberg of Sky Sports German. Then Newcastle are also pressing ahead with talks to sign right back Ama Dedic from Benfica with the Bosnia and Herzegovina international, 23, valued at about £25 million. That's according to the Mail. Hull City are confident they can finalize a deal for Augsburg midfielder Matt Como, despite having a £10.2 million bid rejected for the 21-year-old German international. The Newcastle midfielder Joe Willock is open to joining Besiktas with a €20 million deal possibly enough to secure the services of the 26-year-old Englishman. It's raining cats and dogs this side. For us, it is still threatening. A few drizzles out there, but not yet pouring. Last weekend, I returned home to signs of what had appeared to be a bit of a downpour in my home area. Really, where I was at the studio, we did not even see a drizzle of it. So Kampala is like that. Then Brighton and Cameroon midfielder Carlos Baleba is a target for Newcastle as they look to replace Brazilian Bruno Guimaraes and the Italian 26-year-old Sandro Tonali. Carlos Baleba to Newcastle. I think that would be a good move for him. By any measure, Newcastle would be an upgrade to Newcastle. Newcastle will be an upgrade to Brighton, even though last season his performances, Brighton were the better team. But I'm talking in terms of club size and, stuff like that. Then Hull City is close to completing a deal to resign Joe Gelhardt from Leeds permanently after the 24-year-old English striker spent the past 2 seasons on loan with the Tigers. So that's according to Sky Sport German. RKC, did you watch Everton's display against Newcastle yesterday? I only caught the finishing as minutes of the game, so I cannot speak about it in much detail. But I remember watching that goal by Harvey Barnes. Although, the result does not give you confidence. Excuse me. I'm trying to do my season predictions for 2026-2027. And I'm still pondering on where to put a team like Newcastle. And that result against Everton left me with little encouragement of how perhaps they could fare next season. But I did not get the opportunity to watch the entirety of the game. So if you have any insights, feel free to indulge me on the topic. And we see. Okay. So there's that bit. There's a gentleman called Nicole Shearer. Very, one of those good ones. Now, remember, PSG are trying to sign Zion Suzuki from Parma, and everything is almost agreed. But as soon as he signs for PSG, according to Nicole Shua, Juventus are confident that they will be able to sign him on a season-long loan. So direct to club talks are expected to happen as soon as he's confirmed as a PSG player. So keep your eyes out on that deal as well. Then Joshua Zirkzee, Jesus Christ, very good player. Some really good dribbling skills. Even yesterday they were on display. But he's one of those players that I increasingly think could benefit from a move away from Man United in terms of playing time and reviving his career, you know? Okay. What else? What else? I feel like we've discussed it all, at least the major stories that you guys ought to be aware of. Like I said, do not miss out on that episode that is coming out today. So Arsenal striker Gabriel Jesus has turned down two very rich bids from the Super League's clubs in the last days. Napoli are still at the window, but two other European clubs are monitoring the Brazilian player. Arsenal are asking for 15 million euros at least to sell him. 15 million euros, that sounds too little for Gabriel Jesus. But anyways, he says he does not want to move to Turkey and he's keen on a move to Napoli. I think even he acknowledges that perhaps his time at Arsenal is as good as that and that he needs to move on. Liverpool could add two wingers to their squad, especially if Cody Gakpo ends up joining Tottenham. Bradley Barcola remains one of the main targets, and then Ibrahim Mbaye is also on the list. Now, guys, why are Liverpool trying to sell themselves short? I mean, you're short on numbers. We do not know what is going to happen with your right wing. You seem to be obsessed with the left wing, and you're there thinking if Barcola comes in, you can let go of Gakpo. I mean, what's not happening at Liverpool? Their squad building doesn't look too promising. Unless, anyway, obviously they know something that we don't. Meanwhile, Al Qadashi are in advanced talks with Manchester City to sign Tijani Wijnaldum's club-to-club agreement clause around 16 million fee, but green light still needed from the Dutch midfielder. Nottingham Forest remain keen. All depends on Wijnaldum's decision. So Al Qadashi from the Saudi Pro League is now the new club that is pursuing a deal for the 28-year-old Dutch midfielder, who Man City are keen to move on after one season. Anyways, it is what it is. It is what it is. Let's wait and see if everything will materialize. Anyways, guys, why don't you allow me call it a wrap? A notorious Big Smoke says, at least Liverpool have a quality attack. I have to watch Martinelli, Gyökeres, Jesus, Martin Odegaard for another season. Now, that's true. Liverpool have a quality attack. Because when you have Isak, when you have Ekitike, when you have Florian Wirtz, when you have Cody Gakpo, Ryong Moha, that looks good. But I can't help it feel that in a way they are short on squad numbers, because 1 to 3 injuries could mean something entirely different for Liverpool. And like I said, for me, I thought their fixation this summer was going to be trying to find a potent replacement for Mohamed Salah. But Bradley Barcola plays off the left wing. And in the left wing, they already have a Cody Gakpo. They already have a Ryong Moha. We know that Ekitike can play off the left wing. We know that Florian Wirtz can play off the left wing. So how many left wingers are they trying to have at the expense of a right winger? They did try out Ryong Moha in the right wing and he looked shambolic. Now, the challenge, I think, for left wing-sided players that get to be tried out on the right wing, they try to approach it with the same mentality as though they are playing off the left. Once you switch from the left wing to the right wing, and you're right-footed, and you're playing now in the right wing, you must approach the wing in the traditional format of you're running to the byline, you're bringing in crosses, you're making cutbacks, and things like that, as opposed to cutting in on the inside and shoot, because once you cut in on the inside, you're going to end up on your weaker foot, for which we do not know how often can you pull off the perfect shot with it. So that's what I feel about Liverpool, But if that attack remains fully fit, they'll be unstoppable. So let's wait and see. But we know that Tottenham Hotspurs are keen on Savinho or Cody Gakpo or Pedro Neto. At least they want to sign one of those three as their preferred winger. If you ask me in terms of hierarchy, how would I rate them? I mean, I'd even struggle because Savinho has not impressed me. I have issues with Pedro Neto himself. I do not see a significant difference between Cody Gakpo and Pedro Neto. There is a bit of a difference, but it is not that significant. But anyways, let's wait and see. Notorious, Mitchell Wainscots, Leonetau, Boss Royal, CR7 fan page got. Thank you so much. Martinez, it's been a pleasure. Joshua Calabio, thank you so much. Kyle De La Cruz, thank you so much. All of you that have been Vivish, thank you so much to all of you that have been part of this morning's broadcast. Allow me to call it a wrap and rest myself to my next schedule of events in terms of other work. Stay blessed and have a wonderful rest of the day. Until next time. Bye-bye for now.